Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 495 of Putin's invasion into Ukraine. As always, with former advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, Lieutenant Colonel Olexiy Arestovych, and Russian opposition politician, lawyer, and blogger Mark Feygin. Thank you guys for your continuous support. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Don. We do appreciate your help. And with that, let's dive into day 495. Enjoy. Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Feygin Live. It is July 3rd. Time is a couple of minutes past 10 in Kiev and Moscow. We're doing our usual stream with Olexiy Arestovych, day 495. Olexiy, everybody's glad to see you here. Good evening. We have about 60,000 starting with us. About 14,000 of you did click the like button already. The usual ask, please continue sharing links to that stream in your social media. That helps to bring it up in Google and YouTube recommendations. Make sure you also click the bell so you do not miss our releases. And if you're watching it and click the like button, you're helping others to see it. And subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English language. Alright, with that, let's start. I would like to begin today with the story of Mikhail Saakashvili, who was interrogated today on the cam for his court proceedings with Georgian government. You can barely recognize him. He looks so much different. If you take pictures of him before the beginning of this war, of this round of this war, when he went to Georgia in 2021, and the person that we see today. And today, President Zelensky called the ambassador of Georgia, and according to news, he ordered Minister of Foreign Affairs to call upon the Georgian ambassador and express his dissatisfaction with Georgia and their politics and the situation with Mikhail Saakashvili, who is a citizen of Ukraine. So I did as much as we could. We did a couple of actions. We protested in different places in front of Georgian embassies around the world. And I think, in my view, they're complete dumb fucks. They're fully purchased by Moscow. They're just mining their money from Putin's regime. But there should be some exit even for Mikhail Saakashvili's destiny. What do you think about it? I'll use what our president said. He said that Putin is killing Mikhail Saakashvili with the hands of Georgian leadership. It is difficult to look at this situation at the harsher light, and we also are seeing the news that Georgian parliament adopted an amendment to election code of Georgia, according to which a special investigation and more authority is given to the Central Election Committee instead of and to Parliament instead of Central Election Committee. So basically taking power from presidential branch to their legislative branch. And let's understand, Olexiy, here, sorry for intervening, but Moscow is just so giddy about these news. They're just wet with excitement. Right. They already have doubled the flights, the number of flights between Russia and Georgia. Georgia is actively helping them to avoid sanctions, so it's an active participant of grey schemes for supplies of different materials. And that's the story. Georgia got a third of its territory occupied by Russia, even though their people are not even speaking much Russian now. Now they're pulling back and bending over for Moscow. Yeah, that's interesting story, and I can send a message here that we despise the authorities of Georgia, and I do want to say that according to our travels and communications in Europe and on the other side of the ocean, I'm not even talking about the agents of Putin in their legislature, but even their president Zurabishvili, if she thinks that she can save her grace and pretend that she wasn't capable, she had not enough power, and that she's just a citizen of France and will try to leave. According to some rumors, Ivanishvili is holding her on a hook. She probably got caught on some machinations, and that's the strategy she chose. But yeah, there's no way out for her, no easy way out after this. So let's start a poll today, and the question is, since we started with Mikhail Saakashvili, the question will be, is the leadership of Georgia pro-Moscow? Yes? No? They're just trying to be smartasses. And here we're posting that question in the poll, so you can start participating in it. Smartasses kind of covers both, right? This is a special path. It's like they're going to be sucking everybody's. Okay. I know people are laughing, saying that this is a scientific poll, but it's a good measure of a temperature in our audience, which is rather broad and spans several continents. So let's switch to the topic of counteroffensive. Do we have any news that we should mention? Yeah, of course. Let's talk about that. For the first time, our command acknowledged the fights around Antonov Bridge. Olexiy, Antonovka, we are fighting there. Russian side is saying that we are holding as an area of 3 by 3 in that place, and that they have to throw their paratroopers, some of their territorial defense people, which in their parlance, their territorial defense is basically poorly equipped, whoever they could grab and throw in the front. And apparently we are still holding the territory on the other side of Dnieper, and our command acknowledges that. Wait, Saldo mentioned that they kicked everybody out and destroyed everything. All right, these are the same people who also planned to take Kiev in 3 days. Right, they cannot really take much forces to reinforce that area from anywhere, or also there's a risk, because if there is one little perch near Antonov Bridge, then there could be a second one, a third one somewhere. And overall, the picture that when they have generally more, according to stats, more people, more artillery on that front, and they're still incapable to push us back to the right bank. So that story is definitely telling you something. Let's go further. Some sources are saying that Ukrainian troops are already fighting for Rabotina and Zherebyanka. You see that blue motion, the first village down south, 6 o'clock from that. Apparently, according to some news, the fighting already happens in that settlement. So, if that is true, then it means that we're almost at the main line of defense that they created. That will be a whole other discussion, a whole other conversation, and let's not touch upon the perspectives and tempos of that, but we're getting to the next big stage of this counteroffensive. Let's walk further to the right, to the south of Big Novoselka, Novomayorsk, Novodonetskaya. So yeah, here on this part, we're pushing down south. But the enemy apparently is concentrating more troops in Rabotina, the previous area that we looked at, because they expect some big trouble to manifest there. It means two things: that southern direction did not disappear, it's just going slow and successfully. And the troops are solving the tasks set for them on this front. And from the NATO point of view, there's still forming operations. This is not the main part of counteroffensive yet. So we'll see. According to the speed of losses of equipment and personnel by our enemy, you'll be laughing, but in 2 to 3 weeks, there'll be an interesting break in that front. Maybe not in one place, maybe in 2 or 3. All right, let's go to the north, to the east and north. In Marinka, the enemy is trying to attack, but they're failing to move there. Also, Vodяное Opытное to the south of Avdiivka that you see on the map now at 6 o'clock. They're still trying to push there. There's a lot of hard fighting, and to the north of Avdiivka you can see those 4 arrows. And they're trying to encircle Avdiivka same way they did Bakhmut, but they're not really succeeding in doing it. And regardless, they did throw their operative reserves in several places, into the southern front, and also to Avdiivka and to Bakhmut as well. They want to stop the motion of our troops to Kurtyuvovka, which really concerns them. That's to the south of Bakhmut, and they're trying to do some counteroffensive there. Yeah, Kurtyuvovka is at 6 o'clock on this picture. So if we go north now to Lugansk region, Zolotaryovka and Belogorovka, you can see 3 arrows going at 9, 11, and almost 12 o'clock under the green protrusion. They actually moved some of the cadre military, well, cadre, not real cadre, but like the fifth staffed official detachments that still exist, that still are capable of doing something. So it's their 5th staffing order. And they're trying to push us out of here. And also you can see 3 arrows going down from the north. That used to be Serebrenka Forestry, but observers are probably calling it time to rename it to Serebrenka Desert, because there are not much trees left after all the artillery shelling. But they have no success, and we're still holding. So we can characterize that they actually pulled more reserves from their supply areas, and they're throwing them to 4 directions: Belogorovka, Bakhmut, Svatova, Avdiivka, Marinka, and down on the south. And they're trying to go to counteroffensive actions down south to try to respond to our troops' forward motion. And that basically tells you that Russian command gauges the situation on the front as difficult and hard on all directions. And they're also thinking that Avdiivka is somewhat perspective for them, but I'm surprised that they do. Also, they again hit us with missiles today, 16 wounded civilians. And now there is another counter-attack. We said hi to those people who like sending drones on Kiev. And in Skadovsky they got good explosions, so hopefully we destroyed some of their stash of drones. And today is the day of air defense troops, so we're saying deep thanks for their continuous work to make our life in Ukraine tolerable and safer. And yesterday there was a day of Ukraine Navy, the only navy in the world that had sunken the flagship of the enemy in the last 110 years. So, and that's even without leaving ports. So imagine what they can do if they manage to leave ports and start doing maneuvers in the real sea. So, in essence, the fact that Russians threw reserves on the front, summing it up, it means that you don't need to scream, sky's falling. No, it means that they are losing with their current personnel, and they need to engage reserves in order to hold their own. So we're getting to very important phases of this counteroffensive. 155,000 are with us. 55,000 already clicked the like button. We've been live for about 15 minutes. Let's take a look at our polling. And is the Georgian leadership pro-Moscow? Out of almost 41,000 respondents, yes, 90%, no, 1%, and they're just smart asses, 9%. So 99%, 90% I think that's qualitative polling for Georgian government at this point and for European partners. So what did Zelensky say about the explosion in Ukraine Special Services building? Yeah, Zelensky mentioned one of the Shahid drones hit the building. Okay. All right, let's discuss further. First session of NATO and Ukraine work group will happen during NATO summit, according to Boris Pistorius. Does it mean that this is what I think it is, that NATO perhaps is making that special pill that might make it a little sweeter to take for Ukraine, that they're not yet scheduled for certain dates to join NATO, but at least it's some process. Yeah, it is a part of the integration process, Mark. We can greet that with open arms. That's good. We are appreciative of that. The process is going, right? It's not going to be put back in the bottle, but the genie is out. And this is confirmed with their statements, and we still need more military equipment from them. And the working group, Ukraine and NATO, would need to concentrate on technical aspects of all that so that results of this war would be acceptable for both NATO and Ukraine. Do you know that Russia and NATO had the same council working at some point? Yep, and it is dead long ago. It was dead long ago. Yeah, everything beautiful, Putin buried and sealed. Yep, and shut down. So this is a good working group, working council. It aids with intel exchange. It aids with with better definition of military needs and supplies. So this elevates our forward motion to the new level, which is good. The European Union also promised to double help to Ukraine, both financial and military, according to Ursula von der Leyen. So doubling. That's even with our discussion that Hungary blocked some aid to Ukraine, but still, at least the position of European Commission and European Union overall is united regarding aid to Ukraine. Yeah, it is united. They just need to hit Orban on his head to stop him from creating trouble. How do they do it? Well, they found how to do it last time when they basically paused a special package for Hungary, and that time will come again soon. And Orban already showed that he becomes very quiet and very mum when they pull the right lever. So we'll see, and I hope this will work this time again. Soon there'll be a time for Hungary to ask for more money from the budget of EU, so likely they'll have some. And otherwise, yeah, somebody can take him out at the NATO summit and entertain his liver with a fist and explain that this is wrong what he's doing. Right, yeah, there is a saying in Russian language how to describing exactly that procedure. Because, yeah, these Putin's agents are just tiresome when they pop up here and there, especially amidst our dear allies. Dmitry Kuleba made another statement about Mikhail Saakashvili, and he stated that Georgia needs to stop torturing a citizen of Ukraine and need to return Mikhail Saakashvili to Ukraine because, by the way, he's a Ukrainian citizen. Right. The logic here is obvious. The sanctions themselves, right. I don't even know why European community has not slapped sanctions on Georgian Dream, the pro-Putin's party in parliament, and against Vanishvili and Zurabishvili. So I think we sent their ambassador not with nothing, but with a stern message and explanation of what's going to happen. I hope the West is also ripened to the sanctions now. And I want to say that I do make statements on the Georgian channels, and I do talk to the Western politicians about Georgia as well. My impression is the West is afraid that they will push Georgia more to the hands of, to the embrace of Moscow. But then how far can they go to that embrace? They already are. Did you notice where else? Yeah, how far can you push them? They already are there. Do you know, by the way, that one of the keywords in our 500 streams, the West is afraid? This is one of the key phrases. I just got myself on a thought that the West is afraid is one of the central phrases of that whole story that lasts for about 500 days already. And the West is afraid for so long. I want to ask a question. Are you guys tired of being afraid? And a lot of different events are happening. For example, one of the most pro-Western Georgian is being now tortured and killed in prison. And Georgia is walking towards Moscow in a very rapid pace. But the West is afraid. Ukrainian kids are getting killed with missiles. The West is afraid to give us ATACMS or jets. Prigozhin's mutiny, the West is afraid. The West is constantly afraid. Rather surprising, right? I start to think about that, not even as a military observer, but as the person who is fond of psychology. I'm really concerned with the West. Why are they always afraid? When it gets to serious decisions, they're always afraid. Personally, I don't understand how far can they push it out, because I think the question about Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, it also is getting worse. Zaluzhny is doing meetings at Rovinska nuclear power plant, right? Yeah, he was there too. Yeah, there was a second visit to that station. Mark, I wanted to elaborate more on being afraid. We are not afraid. We're not afraid in Ukraine. And as for the attempt to blow up the nuclear power plant in Zaporozhye, I think the main reason for that would be economic damage to Ukraine, and I am almost 100% sure they'll do it. I don't think there'll be nasty and gnarly and far-reaching nuclear fallout effects. As our specialists say, it'll be rather localized, but I don't see Russians holding themselves from doing it. I think they'll actually do it. And I think there is some psychological effect here, especially after Chernobyl, with the radiation and fallout. You know, I'm afraid we'll have to say it again. The West is afraid. Do you think it's in the hands of the West to prevent the explosion on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant? I think they have keys from a lot of blocks. What could they do? They could reach some agreement with Moscow, transfer the station. No, they could just at least shoot up a few targets in Ukraine of the Russian military. Or deliver ATACMS, or, give Tomahawks to Ukraine temporarily. By the way, they're saying that Turkey already destroyed one of the Wagner bases in Libya. And just imagine that what our allies could do. They could destroy all Russian military targets outside of Russia. The first top 10 most important. The private mercenary corps, for example. Everybody knows where Wagner bases are. That's a signal good enough, right? That's an easy way. You're gonna start a nuclear war in retaliation to that because of allies attacking Wagner bases. So there are different angles, and there are a lot of hybrid solutions, as long as you have a desire to exploit them. All right, let's then look at another piece of information, and that's not because that I want to repeat that over and over again, but some people are listening to us and not watching us, so I'm repeating the polling question for those. So is Georgian leadership pro-Moscow? Yes, 90%, no, 1%, and they're just smart asses, 9%. We have about 57,000 voted. And of course, we've been live for 25 minutes, almost 180,000 are watching us live. and 65,000 clicked the like button already. Do not forget to subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station. Now, with Wagner, first of all, Shoigu finally emerged, and he did make a statement that mutiny was stopped because soldiers of Russian Federation remained true to their honor and their contract, and they're actually combining that those people that who stopped Wagner actually belonged to different kinds of Russian military. But in reality, where were they? We did not see them. And yeah, another question: where were the top two leaders of Russian Federation? Where were Shoigu and Gerasimov? Where were you for a whole 24-hour span? What did you do when the headquarters of your Southern Command were captured? Why did not you lead your troops to counter Prigozhin's mutiny? Why did not you encourage your troops with your own example? Did you remain true to your oath to them? I think it's rhetorical, but... All right. So how is the situation unfolding? I understand that some people are already tired of that mutiny piece, but in reality, it's just a little over than a week past. And there's a ton of events happening. A lot of things are unfolding. Wagner troops 10 days ago were a serious force. Now they're nothing. Now they're renaming it into some private company greed or whatever, and being relocated. And as a subject that we understood what we knew Wagner is, as it's not existing anymore. It doesn't have leadership, it doesn't have financing. They do not have a single commander, and they're being chased by a ton of Russian special services. Propaganda machine is already shelling them. If you listen to Russian media, they're already calling them all kind of nasty things. And they're basically rewriting history, saying that everything Wagner did was shit, because Russian military took Mariupol in 90 days, and Wagner spent 220 days taking Bakhmut. And understandably, that's matching the propaganda tasks from Kremlin, so that nobody would have any illusions. When I was giving 2 streams during those days when Wagner was active, people understood that Prigozhin will be assassinated and Wagner will be disbanded, and I mean, the leadership, the actual core contract group, they'll either find themselves on the front line or in prison, or they'll be just assassinated. And for some people it was not obvious at that time, but 10 days later, what conclusion can we draw? I think they'll be finishing them off, bit by bit. They already are. Today we saw a video, I think I sent one to you, that some of the graves of Wagner troops were destroyed. Oh yeah, that's FSB operatives who are doing that, so that people would not have any illusions about it. They're getting locals and they're getting some people to do it for them, but yeah, that's FSB. And the weakness of regime is being highlighted, that they cannot destroy Wagner once and for all with one swoop motion, but bit by bit, somewhat afraid and looking over their shoulder, they're still destroying it. Minister of Defense showing up finally on the 8th day after mutiny on the screen and making a statement. And yeah, with Wagner, it's understood. Woe is to the defeated. Yeah. Those who went to negotiate with Putin's regime, one needs to be a complete idiot to do that. One needs to have no brain to negotiate with Putin. So, do you think they were hopeless? Do you think they had no idea what will happen? I think they did not expect such a reaction. They did not expect that the power will fall and they'll have a chance to take Moscow. So Prigozhin, I think, just got scared. Pretty much, yeah. That was not his scale. That was a gift from destiny that he could not eat. Yeah, then he probably will be sent to that proverbial champagne bottle into the Russian prison and be stuffed with it. Yeah, some experts are now talking outside saying there'll be some rematch and Prigozhin will take Wagner and lead them from Belarus to achieve some goals. I don't know what they think about. Where can you go from Belarus? Mark, how can you create a battle-worthy detachment of people whose graves are now being destroyed? Who has the sword of Damocles hanging over their head and they don't know who or when will execute them? How can you make them fight? And where did they take money? Where do they take money for salaries? Where do they take munitions, shells? Even if you give it to them, you don't know. Like, if you're fighting, imagine you're fighting for Wagner, you go out to the fight, you even win maybe, return back, and then you get arrested and executed summarily. So the previous Wagner, it's gone. No, I don't think it'll exist anymore. That one that was their leading strike force during this phase of war, and the one they're now talking about that Wagner did nothing, yeah, I think it's gone. Okay, another topic. In the next couple of weeks, Ukraine is probably getting dozens more of tanks from Germany, Leopard 1. So the situation with Leopards 1 and 2, the ones that Moscow is screaming that they've destroyed a ton of them on the front. Now, looking at the dynamics with that supply, I understand Ukraine is losing some of that equipment, right? Not on the scale that Putin is describing, but it is happening. Is it mostly happening due to mines, anti-tank mines? That's what Ukrainian side is mentioning for the most part, that there is a lot of landmines they have to go through. Different reasons, Mark. Anti-tank missiles, helicopters, Ka-52 shooting at these targets. We, by the way, downed one of them today. Of course, anti-tank mines. So it's a complex set of reasons. In every big military operations, and I would say the losses of that equipment are not nearly as what Russia is saying, but they're also much lower than the level that would make us concerned about unexpected losses. But the fact that the West is coming out now and say they'll deliver more tanks to Ukraine, that shows that Putin's wet dreams about West getting tired and stopping their support are not happening. Americans are playing a real Jesuit strategy here. If 15 Bradleys are destroyed, they're adding 15 more. If 25 are hit, they're adding 25 more APCs. So, and by the way, damaged in battle doesn't mean fully destroyed. So, we're refitting and returning some of them back. So, okay, another news. I'm translating from Ukrainian. In Hague, International Bureau of Investigation is opening for investigating a Russian invasion into Ukraine. It will be working with International Tribunal, International Criminal Court in Hague, the one that we talked about, the one that signed the order for Putin. And of course, in the activity of that bureau will include representatives of Ukraine, European Union, United States, and International Criminal Court. I'm trying to translate. Sorry. With all of the languages. AFP. AFP is the agency that is writing about that. So, international investigative organ that is a procedural body that essentially prepares material for the court. So in this case, they're creating a special international bureau that will be accumulating and investigating details and will be working with Ukrainian bodies and other organizations in different jurisdictions. So that's a full-blooded investigative bureau. Of course, Mark, then there are some limitations that international tribunal faces. For example, Americans are not part of that because they have not accepted Roman statute. They cannot participate in the criminal court, but they can work in that new body, in that investigative body. So they're closing the gaps that they had with the existing structure, and they're adding new opportunities. Today, our general prosecutor said that they're investigating 93,000 crimes done by Russian troops on the territory of Ukraine. So their whole campaign, starting last February, is not individual incidents of some people. This is just a non-stop stream. It's a system, government politics. You divide 93,000 by 500 days, and you get 186 crimes per day committed by Russian military every day in Ukraine. Speaking of negotiations and maybe giving them a little bit of territory, right? Yeah, they'll double that record, these shitmasters. We have no concerns about that, because in occupation, that's where they make these most of these crimes, because the local population is defenseless and cannot do anything. Yeah, they're not getting punished for that, and being not punished is one of the main reasons why they escalate. That's a known thing in criminalistics. As long as evil is not punished, it's very tempted to escalate. But when you hang somebody and start showing it around, then all of a sudden a bunch of other evildoers will get second thoughts about committing more crime. So don't tell us that we are non-humanists here. We know whom we're fighting with. By the way, I wanted to discuss with you, I heard Greta Thunberg actually showed up again, and we discussed with one of my guests in the studio why Greta Thunberg was mom after the explosion of Kakhovskaya Dam. So she finally visited President Zelensky, and she did express public support to Ukraine, and she did label Moscow as a evildoer. So Greta, our air kiss goes to you, not a physical one, because, germs and shit, but as a so-called young leader of the left liberal agenda, she did mark her position. Do you think it matters? Because many people visit Zelensky, but she was one of the recent additions. She's a pretty bright individual on the international arena. Yeah, she is, because left is definitely a power on the world scene. You know how I treat the extreme left. Same thing. But they do express and actually form part of the public agenda in the West. So we appreciate any kind of support. And if she states her position like that, good, thank you. I'm just want to say here that with the left of the left wing of the Democratic Party, for example, in the United States, these are not really ones supporting Moscow, but the extreme left in the States, for example, they're not supportive of Ukraine. And they're looking at something else. They are picking other problems, and they're trying to imagine some Nazis in Ukraine, and they're bringing up old corruption issues, but they're kind of missing the target. The problem is the aggression of Russia onto Ukraine, but they're targeting other things. Yeah, and they're playing the same criteria. They're basically judging equally the ones who are defending as the ones who are attacking. while the ones who are defending are actually fighting for their survival, and the attacker can stop the conflict at any moment. But yeah, I guess it's good that we are behaving ourselves as the European country on the front. And in the economic publication, the recent one was titled Vladimir Putin's Useful Idiots. And the picture of Orban, I was wondering, whom did they talk about? Orban. And they're talking about politicians who are failing to resist Putin. Here it is. Yeah, Urban, I don't think he's a useful idiot. I think he's a smart-ass part. That's the one that does it for money. Useful idiot is the one who, in my opinion, who, as they said before, is kind of a wishful thinker who's for everything good and against everything bad. That's let's love each other, let's stop the war, and it's like, let's have peace. We don't care who is bad or good. Let's just sign a peace treaty. And at the end, it turns out they're all on the salary of one of the baddies. So, and to kill the Russian ambassador in London, in order of Day of Russia, 2 members of the Chamber of Lords came to see him, Skidelsky and one other guy, who are very well connected with Moscow. One is completely pro-Moscow dude. Another, Skidelsky, pretends to be somewhat objective, a politologist and a researcher, and he repelling the accusations of that activity, he said, I came there to protest the Russian position. So I always have a question. How did you come there to protest? Were you even dressed? Or did you shit on the table of the ambassador? The article that I brought up is very symptomatic, because NATO and some other guys like to talk about Ukraine not being ready, about corruption, about other things. I always want to counter that and say, who is the backbone of the gray schemas that Russia is getting their supplies through? Or you guys are all crystal clear and this gray market exists outside of you? How is Mr. Orban existing there? How do these 2 lords exist? How does Schroeder and Merkel exist? So, or Sarkozy, who was officially accused in corruption. By the way, President of France also had issues with that. 2008, he was making decisions about Ukraine with Merkel. And these people are telling us about corruption, right? Is everything good with corruption on your side? And with the ability to push your own agenda, your own politics, as you put it on the flag, or you are dependent on one corruptoid in your ranks? Yep, I agree with you on that. All right, let's conclude. Is Georgian leadership pro-Moscow? Yes, 89%. No, 1%. They're just smart as 10%. 76,000 voted, and we're concluding that poll. And appreciate everybody who participated. That is important, because that's how we can influence or gauge the opinion of big masses. And we've been live for about 40 minutes, 43 actually. Let's pause here. About 206,000 are watching us already. Please do not forget to click the like button if you have not done yet. And if you have not subscribed, make sure you do that to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English language. And the links to all of the channels are in the description of that video. Feygin Live is storming 2,123,000 mark. And Olexiy channel is a bit more modest. Privateer Station is smaller. And the next stream will be not on Wednesday, but on Thursday, 10 p.m. Kiev, so it will be released Friday morning, Eastern Time, the United States. And we'll see you then. Follow our releases, follow our posts. See you guys.